Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. And obviously, I have Good Guy Knox, and obviously, I have here with me Mama Carrot, KKK, Dr. Carrot, KKK, the Kid, the disembodied voice, Joshua. And welcome to the very first live session of More Lore, No Bore.
Yeah, we've done a couple of these, but never live, so this should be fun.
Yeah, and only one of them ever got published.
Well, the 3 or 4 we recorded, we did a lot of experimenting with, and
yeah,
they all came out to varying degrees of awesomeness. It was the ones where I was recording solo always really got to me because I had like 20 recordings. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
So now you're going to do that live and you only get one recording.
Right. And now I have an audience, so what could go wrong?
You have an audience, so what could go wrong? All right. The floor is yours, Josh.
So, first I just want to say that I'm very excited to be back, but today we are going to talk about Ornn. Ornn being one of the 3 major gods of the Freljord. The other 2 being Volibear and Anivia. There's mention of other ones like the Boar, but we haven't really gotten a chance to explore those yet, and though hopefully one day we get to see him as well. In this case, Ornn is the probably, I would argue, I want to say the most peaceful of the Freljord gods, but Anivia is pretty close, so really it's a toss up there. Ornn mostly likes to keep to himself. He's the fire under the mountain. Fire below the mountain. He's mostly known for creating great weapons, like I said. And he eventually gathered a group of followers, but he never really considered himself a god. He just kind of kept to himself. He kept to his work. And these people revered him. He was the greatest blacksmith that ever lived. Hundreds of stories were told about Ornn and what he would do, what he would create. Sadly, though, the story of Ornn revolves around more about his brother Volibear, as his followers were actually people he cared about, though he never really expressed it. Like, he never outwardly praised them or anything. It was just his silent approval about their weapons, what they would bring to him. And it wasn't just people in the Freljord. There was apprentices who came from all over Runeterra, and they gathered at the slopes of the Hearthhome, as it was called, to follow Ornn's example. There was people from all over the world who would gather just to learn from Ornn. He would give small curt nods, or like small frowns, or simple little sentences like good, acceptable, things like that, in order to show his approval or disapproval to their work. This would lead to some of the greatest weapons we've seen today in Runeterra. But he silently admired these people for traveling, giving up their lives to come and learn from him, though, again, he would never say anything. Volibear eventually did show up and request that his brother help him in his wars, his battles against those who he deemed unfit to live in the Freljord. And Ornn, being Ornn, he kind of pushed him away and said he wasn't interested. So in retaliation, Volibear led his army, the Ursine, into murdering all of Ornn's followers, which destroyed Ornn emotionally. These were people he actually deeply cared about. He was devastated, and from that moment onward, he decided that he could no longer live in harmony with his brother. He was racked with guilt. He isolated himself under his mountain, silently working. But now, as the world is going on to a new era, and his siblings are reappearing in their physical forms, and now influencing how the Freljord itself is forming, with the Battle of Ash, Lysandra, and Sejuani, it's more of a time for the gods to kind of step out into the light. So as war is brewing in the Freljord, it's hinted that Ornn may come out and begin to influence just as much as his brother and sister, Volibear and Anivia. That's his basic backstory. We also are given quite a few stories about how Ornn has influenced the Freljord. The most interesting, that isn't extremely dark, to me, is the story of the troll. The troll in the ram door, which the ram door being Brahm's shield.
Hmm.
Ornn was challenged to sum it up, basically, Ornn was challenged to a drinking contest by one of the ugliest trolls that has ever graced the Freljord. While Ornn's back was turned, the troll slipped a shard of true ice into his cask, and Ornn even commented on the drink being watered down. As the troll finished his drink, Ornn realized that his drink was never really going down, and as he looked in, he saw the true ice was melting, so that it was never going to empty. It was always going to refill itself. The troll admitted to his cheat and told them that Ornn gave his word, so he must make a door to protect the troll's treasures. Ornn agreed that he did give his word even if he was cheated. So for 10 days, he made a door in the shape of a ram, his symbol, and as he finished it, he trudged off back to his home. And the troll was satisfied with his work. But then to celebrate that, he decided he would then go and admire his treasures on the inside, and went to open the door, only to realize that he could now not open the door. For days, he tried, and Ornn continued to silently enjoy his small victory from within his home before the troll came barging down and demanded that Ornn reveal his trickery. And Ornn simply told him there was no trickery, that he was keeping thieves out. And the troll, whose name is Grubgrak, said he stole nothing and was no thief. And Ornn replied that time was more valuable than gold. So, and having his time stolen by the thief, he was now a thief himself. Now that his time was stolen by the troll, he was now a thief. He would not tell the troll how to open the door. So for years, this troll worked at the door over and over again until eventually he passed away. And they say that if you listen carefully up in the mountains, you can still hear the greedy old troll wailing in anguish before every avalanche. So Ornn's a bit of a trickster, you know. He doesn't like being tricked. He's pretty funny, actually.
I identify with Ornn. He's very grumpy.
Yeah, he just wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
Really, his story is kind of sad. Like even with him kind of emerging now that the Freljord is really in the stages of what's going to be a war and eventually advancement. It's implied that he's not going to take a super active role. It's just implied that they just said that they will need a blacksmith. So it sounds like he's going to be more behind the scenes compared to Volibear,
Mm-hmm.
who is actively raiding villages in a more monstrous form. He's with Sinjwani murdering and hanging bodies, and his followers are deformed zombie creatures. And it's so it's going to be interesting when the two brothers eventually do meet.
Mm.
But yeah, side note, Volibear's appearance as we see in game is not actually how he presently looks. He is more of the skull-faced brown bear that we see than the white, giant, muscled bear that we come to have known.
Interesting that they just recently changed that.
Actually, that was it was changed before the skin came out. It was
No, that's what I'm saying, is they changed the skin and they didn't update it to what he actually looks like, I guess.
Yeah, the Volibear subreddit was not a fan of it. They actually are very active within these subreddits, and
can't say I've ever been there, but it's I'm sure it's a thing.
Yeah, there's a lot. But focusing back on Ornn, there is multiple stories of how he was in the origin of snow, how he shaped the land, the three sisters of the Freljord going to Ornn for help, and the tragedy of the Hearthblood are his people. He's a major figure in the Freljord, and honestly, he's probably like my third or fourth most favorite character. Besides the ninjas and like maybe Misfortune. Like, he's genuinely a very interesting character that has shaped the world in smaller ways. And while he's not a main player as say like Ash or Lysandra or Volibear, he still has his role in the story that I think I'm very excited to learn about as the Freljord story continues to expand.
Yeah, I mean, seems like he is almost like that sort of protagonist you see where it's like he doesn't want to get involved, but he keeps having to get involved, but he like has the skills to be involved.
Yeah,
He's just like the grumpy guy, like, I'm retired, he's just always been retired, but I'm retired, I don't want to be part of this, and they're like, just keep doing things to antagonize him to be part of it.
I think so. I think if just a bit of like speculation, I'm going to guess. So, just a little background on what's happening in the Freljord. Sejuani has sided with Volibear, and Udyr is preparing kind of to eventually fight Volibear himself, though he is aligned with Sejuani. I'm going to guess that Lysandra, Ash and Sejuani's conflict is kind of the major thing happening at the moment, but it's become clear that Volibear is kind of the major threat that's behind the scenes that no one's really paying attention to. So we're going to have to see Ornn, Anivia, Udyr, and Volibear all kind of clash at some point, and it's probably going to be bigger than Ash, Sejuani, and Lysandra. I don't know if Volibear is possibly going to be the force that unites the three, because it's kind of hard to kill off any characters, and I can't really see the conflict in the Freljord ending unless the three unite or two of the three die. So my guess is that Volibear is going to be the force that unites the Freljord, with Ornn being one of the major factors in helping that force.
Well, that is an interesting take on it. I wish I could weigh in more, but I only know what you tell me.
That's true. I mean, sorry, I was just gonna say, do you have any questions? I mean, I'm kind of just going off of like my basic knowledge.
Sure, I just wanted to let you get it out. You said something about Ornn forging. I think you said something like Ornn forging weapons we know or something like that.
Yeah. So Ornn is known for like the ram door being, for example, is Brahm's weapon. We've seen it. We've seen the magical abilities that it possesses. Ornn is known for creating various weapons that, the door being the best example, but is known for creating these magical weapons that have kind of spread all over Runeterra. Off the top of my head, I cannot exactly say, but I do know that Brahm's shield is known as the best case example.
So it's more like characters' weapons, not like in-game weapons. Like
characters' weapons. I should have said. I have a quote here. It said, "Forging whatever his heart desired, the results were priceless tools destined for feats of legends. The lucky few have stumbled upon these relics. Note their bewildering high quality. Some even claim that Brahm's shield was made by Ornn thousands of years ago and remains as sturdy as the day it was finished."
Well, it's definitely awesome that he made that door to lock the guy out. That makes me a fan of him.
Yeah, he's pretty funny. I like even his voice lines. Like, he's very clearly not in the mood. He doesn't even want to be in the fight.
And then, of course, he's in a lot of the fights nowadays, but...
Yeah, he's basically... Him and Shen are the king of top lane right now.
Well, so we know his lore connects obviously to other characters in the Freljord. Does the Freljord connect to other regions outside at all? Or is it very secluded?
It was secluded for quite a while. It has just recently connected, actually. We saw a bit of it in the season, this season 10's trailer where Lux fought Silas. Silas has gone into the Freljord and actually joined up with the Winter's Claw and convinced them to now come down into Demacia. And so they're
Winter's Claw being Lysandra?
No, Winter's Claw being Sejuani.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so Sejuani, then the way he did that was he used he convinced them that he was visited by the sisters, the gods, that they worship, and that he has been sent, and he was dying in the snow, and he was able to grab onto one of I believe it was one of their wrists, and he was able to absorb the magic and that they all possess, and was able to then avoid frostbite basically. The Iceborn, I apologize, I couldn't think for a minute. He's now absorbed the magic of the Iceborn, and so he's actually stronger than when we last left them off, but he is now down in Demacia again with the Winter's Claw helping him. And that's why in Sejuani's story, which I talked about a few weeks ago, they were in Demacia and being chased by the Demacian army.
So are the people that are in that video, the cinematic you're discussing, where he's fighting Lux and Garen, those are the Winter's Claw?
Yes, that is Sejuani's tribe.
Interesting, and yet no Sejuani.
Yes, Sejuani, I believe because we saw if Silas's defeat, I don't want to say defeat, but having both Silas and Sejuani lose isn't great. It's kind of hard from a storytelling perspective, because after they're gonna try to execute Silas, and my theory is that Sejuani's probably going to be the one that saves them if they go in, or at least somebody's going to save them, because again, it's very hard to kill off characters in League of Legends. They did it with Gangplank, it did not go well, so these conflicts usually have to end with no casualties by major characters.
It's kind of unfortunate in the way that it makes it more predictable, right?
In a way, I think so, but at the same time, to go a little off topic, somebody once said to me that they thought Shen should die to continue the Akali Zed Kennen story, and I was I was a little upset at that idea. I was like, no, that would be terrible storytelling. So for all the Sejuani mains or Silas mains, I can completely relate. If my character were to die and I was told by Riot they were to lose their battle, I'd be very upset. So it's this weird situation where it sucks from a storytelling perspective, but as we've come to love these characters. Even if you don't follow the lore, you love your character. Who do you main? Who would you main?
I don't know what I mean anymore, but I mean AD carry Caitlyn.
Yeah, I mean if they were to tell you Caitlyn died in the lore, you could still play her, but she's dead. It kind of maybe it won't affect you as much, but I'm pretty sure you would still not be thrilled by the idea of her being
yeah,
dead.
I mean, I guess it kind of takes away from the edge of the character too, because they all sort of claim to be the best, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of takes away the edge, oh well, they die, obviously someone bests them,
right?
If you want to think about it in that way, but
it's for whatever reason it's very upsetting to think your favorite has died. It's so I can understand why, but it also gives interesting opportunities now, because how is Silas going to get out of it? There's so many ways you can do it. I personally think Sejuani should be the one to save him. I would really like to see the Demacians move into the Freljord War. We have Noxus that has been pushing into Freljord at times, as well as Shurima. The stories are slowly connecting with each other, and it's honestly very amazing to see, because there have been small little things that didn't seem important at the time that you're now getting called back in. With Legends of Runeterra now introducing minor character, well, I shouldn't say minor, side characters, I'll call them, because they're not champions, but they are getting their own stories. That's very interesting. We're having characters that have never made an appearance in any game getting their own stories now. And it's really, really great to see, because now we're seeing how the regular people of Runeterra view characters that were so strong and so mighty, like these Tales of Ornn. We're seeing how people view this godlike creature that many will never meet or see. And it's honestly just really amazing that we're getting this influx of so much story and lore at this time.
Well, Joshua, thank you so much for sharing the story of Ornn with everyone who is probably much like me, too lazy to read it. And do you have any closing comments, anything you really want to like nail home about Ornn to the people listening?
At the end of the day, Ornn is just a grumpy goat man that wants to be left alone. And I think we should all respect that. So please don't go to war with people in the Freljord so Ornn can be left alone.
So let's all take away that you shouldn't go to war with grumpy goat men. Just leave the grumpy goat men alone. Okay.
Just leave him alone.
Just leave him alone.
It's only one.
It's just the most ironic story that he makes the weapons but doesn't want to use them.
Yeah, it's really kind of a tragic story. He makes the weapons of war, but he just wants to sleep. He just wants to make weapons in peace and be left alone.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. This was, again, the very first live recording of More Lore No Bore, and we'll have more for you next week. Thank you again, Joshua. And yeah, have a good night.